Welcome to my channel ITLearn. So today we're gonna learn some interesting and some important part in the testing field. Those who are in the testing field, and especially in automation testing, the finding selector is the most challenging, or maybe sometimes why I say challenging because sometimes we face difficult to find some selector. So today we're gonna learn how to find a selector in the easiest way, and how we can, there's a lots of different way to validate those element in the browser itself. So before putting that element or element to the code, we can validate in the browser itself. So today we're gonna learn those things also. So watch this video till the end so that you will learn how we can find the selector, we can grab the value, and we can play around with the selector inside the browser itself without the real coding. I mean, before going to the coding, we can validate in the browser itself, is it the correct selector or not, and how we can in a different way and different form we can find and we can get the selector or element, whatever you call. But element is a most important and most valuable things in the automation testing. It doesn't matter which technology you are using, right? The technology can be a Selenium with Java, it can be a Cypress, it can be some other different platform and different language. It doesn't matter, but the element or selector is the most important part in automation testing, right? So let's start today and watch till the end so that you will learn a lot of things that will help you for sure in your day-to-day life in automation development, that's for sure. Xpath, first I hope you guys know how the, how many element is there. So for that, let me inspect this one and let me search. Like you guys know, there is some CSS, there is we can find element by class name, by ID, by Xpath itself. There's a different way and different form we can find the element, right? So let me tell you one by one. Like for example, I can say class name, ID, right, CSS, Xpath, and there's a lots of Xpath is available in there. If I want to find the element, there's a lots of element and there are lots of option is available. So let's start one by one. So for example, how we normally use the class, or maybe we can say like the ID. This is a normal way how we can find it. So for example, if I say this is a test data ID, so this is an attribute, right? And if I want to see, if I get to get class, for example, this one is the class, right? So let me find some another one options. Let me check once. So here, say for example, this is a button. So in the button, how we validate normally, how we validate this one? Now for example, we can pick as a ID. So we use this ID in our code, right? So and this button is clicked. See, this button is clicked. So when I click, you can see here the button color is changed. So I am using this site for our testing purpose, right? So this is the ID we have clicked. And the how we can validate this ID in the browser itself. How? If you press Ctrl F, you can see one search bar over here, you can type it as a Ctrl V. So query button, there is a 3 matches it find, right? Now if you provide has, let's see how many is matching there. So it is saying there is a 2 matches, right? But the best way, don't use whenever you are selecting your selecting any element or any selector, don't use this kind of element, this kind of selector, where if you see here, you can see there's a 2 element, right? 2 out of 2. So always try to figure it out, there should be always one element. How we can do that? We can use that one, right? let me take an example of Gmail to understand in the better way, right? So here you can see we can have a lot of option to select as an element. We can have a name, right? We can use the name. We all know that we name is a type of finding element, so we can use the name. Even we can have a ID, so we can use the ID here. So how we can validate in the browser? In this element, if you press Ctrl F, or if you are using Mac, then you can press the command F. So you can see one search bar over here. So in the search bar, if you are using CSS, so what you do for the CSS validation, for the, if it is a ID, just put a hash symbol, it's for the ID. And if it is a class, then give a dot symbol for the class, right? So if I say dot, that means I am saying the identifier ID, that is a class, but no, there is no class available, that's why we are unable to get it. But if I press hash, that means I am saying identified ID is a ID, and if I use hash, that means it's an ID. So I can easily grab this one, so I can use this in my code as a valid element, right? Valid element and valid selector, whatever you say. But the here is the point, just before using valid selector, once you validate this one, validate in the element section, and you need to be make sure that that should be one of one, means there should not be two element. Here always it should be one element before validate, so that your code will be pass 100, and if you execute 100 times, your 100 times your test will be passed. And if you don't, if you say example, if you find two out of if you find two element, or maybe three element, multiple elements, so there is a chance of test failure, because there is the same element exist in the page in the multiple times, so it doesn't expect that every time it will click on the same element which you are expecting in the code. It might not be might not be a case, right? So this is the simplest way to find the element, right? The same way we can use the class itself. So let me remove this one. I'll tell you, I'll show you one by one. So class, there is a class, right? So the interesting thing is, here's a space, right, in that class. So what I will do, normally we will use class, the full class name. There's a two class name, but in CSS we can use any one of this class name, and we need to provide dot before that. So if I provide dot, this one, it should be a class name. Oh, sorry, why it is not okay, there's a space. So now there's a three class, it is saying there's a three class, so this is not a valid selector. We need to find a proper valid selector. How we can find a proper valid selector? So let me search in some other way. Okay, so this is the valid one. So there is another class, so I can simply copy this one, I can paste it. If you are using, if this is I'm showing you, like how to get the class easily, but here I'm showing you like how we can get the CSS value itself. You can use dot, so that means see, this is the valid one till it is a two out of you can see, right, there is a two element it is finding, there's two match. So it's always better to avoid this element. So you need to, so here the best way to select this one, it should be the ID, because the ID is we are getting this single proper value. So instead of class, we can use it here as a ID, right? Yeah, the ID is the proper one. So in this scenario, I like you guys also face the same things, like whenever you are trying to finding some element, there's a lots of way, there's a ID, name, or some other element, the Xpath. So how you validate this one? You just simply check this one. And one another interesting things I told you in the beginning itself, like I'll tell you how you can validate itself in the browser itself. So we can test this one in the browser itself. How? Just copy this one, come to this console tab, right? In the console, here we can type like document dot query selector we have a query selector, right? We can simply paste it inside the single quote or double quote. It's a string. Simply see, it's already highlighted. If I click enter, it is giving us the proper element. Even we can validate over here, like we can say, as we can set value equal to, I'll say, like inside the double quote, test@example.com, right? See, example.com is already typed. See, test.example.com by the code itself. I did not touch anything. From here itself it is like I want to grab text. We definitely we use in our code, like how we can grab the text from the element, right? In maybe if you are using Cypress, there is some different command, and if it is using Selenium, that should be a get text, something like so there should be a different value, different function for different framework. But in browser also we can validate we have the proper element or not. How we can validate? It should be like here, like so. I want to get this value, like what it is here. So let me see the class. If I get it by class, now there's a 5 option available, right? So for example, sign in, I can, so for example, I want to grab this text. Use your Google account, so I can grab this text. So if it is a Selenium, it should be grab text, and if it is a Cypress, that should be some different command. But for now, in the different framework, it should have the different one. But let me check it here. So it is highlighting this one, right? It is highlighting this one. So let me see, can I get it? Let me see if we can grab the text. So this should be id. I told you initially, if it is an id, then it should be hash. If it is an class, then it should be a dot, right? So in our case, it should be an id, and its id is a css. Like here I am using the css format, right? So this is a css format I am using, and if I can say inner html, it should be okay. So if I say inner text, see, use your Google account, this text I wanted, like I have it. So there is a there's a two option to grab it, like from the code itself we can get it, or we can use a javascript executor, and we can use this command and we can return this value. If we can say like return, and we can paste this value inside that javascript executor. So that way also, this way also, you will get this value, like this element value, whatever the value it is. The same way, like this is, I think this will help you in a lot in during your debugging code and finding a selector, like how to find selector and this. So this will help you a lot, right? So class, id, css, so all the things, I hope you guys are clear till now. We can have this option to validate it is the perfect element or not. If it is the perfect element, you can double check over here, like you can get the text, you can type the value, you can click on the button, like, and all. I think this video will helpful for you in day-to-day life to finding a selector, I hope. And the next video I'll create some more info about to finding Xpath, how you can find a Xpath in a different way, how you can create your customized Xpath. Those things I'll describe in the next video that will be coming very soon. Also you will know how we can click on a button from the browser itself without coding. So those will be a very much helpful in your next video in day-to-day life. If you like this video, then subscribe this channel and share this with your friends. Thank you. The video will be coming soon. Stay tuned on this channel. Thank you.